Hi there, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of the OxyMorons. And for those of you that have not been familiar with the show in the past, what this is all about is what I call practical visionaries or strategic pragmatists, depending on which side of the coin you like to imagine yourself in. And so I'm always looking for stories about instances in which people have really applied kind of both practical skills and visionary skills in order to innovate. And so I'm really pleased today to have Rich Seery from the Seery Systems Group. Rich, nice to have you here.
Thanks, John. Looking forward to it.
And Cheng-Shorland from ShelterZoom. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, John.
And so what we're going to talk about today, and for those of you that are listening, would love to have comments. Feel free to post a comment, particularly if you're in LinkedIn. We'll see them and I'll tee them up. Also, if you're in LinkedIn, do those little clap hands and thumbs ups and hearts and all that kind of good stuff that pops up. And that's always a lot of fun. But this is an interesting oxymoron play because I think one of the most interesting instances of oxymoron thinking is when people combine unexpected ingredients to create something truly new. And it's that juxtaposition of really very different kinds of things that I find the most interesting. So before hopping in, and Rich, I will ask you this and not ask Chao this, but what would surprise you or a playlist, anything that you listen musically? What would surprise them?
Glenn Campbell.
Ay, okay.
Yeah.
Ryan, you're a rhinestone cowboy thing.
Yeah. Or John Fogerty, CCR.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop in. And let me start with, that I thought this was interesting. The story that you two represent is that it represents a combination of Vatican manuscripts from the 14th and 15th century, of scanning and capture, and blockchain. So some kind of strange bedfellows, if you will. So maybe one of you could just give an overview of the project and why you think it's unusual.
Chao, why don't you take that?
Yeah, I can jump in on this one. So interestingly, a year ago, we got engaged with an NGO called Humanity 2.0. So Humanity 2.0 is really using the technology to enable the advancement of humanity, and it was led by the Vatican. So fortunately, I had an opportunity to visit the Vatican and in February last year with my partner, Alan. And when we arrived there, because COVID hit, and you could see the libraries and all the museums just empty. So we met with Father Nazar, who is the rector of Pontifical Orientale Institute, which is a very significant institute under Pope Francis. And we actually spoke about, how his university was going. And we really just so surprised to realize how visionary he was. He was really a champion in the Vatican for technology innovation. And one of the, things really impacted on the Vatican is that people used to be able to travel there and to sit in the library, read those precious manuscripts. But because of the lockdown, and they lost so many opportunities for scholars to come from all over the world to collaborate. So they were facing a real issue. And then Vatican was reluctant to digitize because they are so worried about their precious asset get copied, get really replicated or downloaded unauthorized. So that was one of the reasons the digitization is always a little bit slow. But actually, inside Vatican, there are a lot of visionary people and want to innovate, through technology. So then, when we actually presented the opportunity on the blockchain, so Vatican still have ownership over all their content, and they own them. They can control the consumption of all those manuscripts. It's just a match made in heaven. So then from that point, and both sides very engaged with this project, And then Richard, and Chao been actually partner for quite a while now. And Richard is really very equipped to help this stage of the work to scan and preserve those, to digitize in the first phase. So we engaged with Richard, and he also saw the significance in this project because this is a very historical project for us, and I think for the world, because Vatican is the biggest content holder, the knowledge base in the world, and then plus they're really the largest publisher because they have Bible publishing as well. So to be able to showcase and this project and really do the right job for the Vatican, for the humanity, I think it was really what connected Richard and Chao to take on this challenge and provide a solution to it. Richard, would you like to add anything?
So, Rich, I was going to say, how did you connect with ShelterZoom? Usually, I've known you and I've known your family for a million years, and you don't usually think of a scanning company connecting with a blockchain company. What did you see, or what was the idea that you had there?
Well, for years I do a lot of government work, state and local government, and for years I've spoken to government officials who would love to put their documents online, but have been hacked over the years and really are afraid to put their documents online. And so I started to explore avenues of how we could put certain documents online that it would be immutable and unhackable. And I came across ShelterZoom through a friend of mine who's very involved with blockchain. And I met with both Chao and Alan probably almost 2 years ago. And we hit it off right from the start. And I think we both had a vision of, where is this technology going to go? And Chao and Alan have been leaders in this. And I was trying to find verticals and applications that we could create at a high level, whether it's government or mortgage applications or, different types of verticals that we could grow, not just locally, but nationally or internationally. So that's what we're looking at now. And the Vatican was just one of those projects that was very interesting, as Chao explained. I mean, and we were over there with 8 of my staff for close to 3 months, scanning about 400 books. And we chose a scanner from SMA, a German scanner that was able to output both at 300 DPI bitonal and 600 DPI color at the same time, because they don't want to scan the books over. We can't really deliver a 600 DPI color book at this stage at 30 or 40 gigs to download. But in the future, when technology catches up, we certainly will be able to do that and give them the highest quality. So it's been a very unique relationship that we're trying to, again, to explore, to figure out how we can find those verticals where government and other organizations can take full advantage of blockchain with documents.
So when, without risking a 45-minute tutorial on blockchain, for those that aren't familiar with blockchain, maybe from a business perspective, maybe one of you could give a quick description of why blockchain, what is it, what does it do, and how does it connect with documents?
Sure.
Yeah. So one of the benefits of blockchain, obviously, I think most people know, is security. And with the distributed ledger or decentralization, and the documents actually very hard to be hacked. And so that's one of the benefits probably a lot of people are aware of. But there are other aspects relatively unknown to the public. So for example, traceability, and the blockchain actually has a very strong traceability, trackability, auditability, and you can really trace across the whole life cycle of a document. So this actually is very important to, for example, the mortgage business, financial institutions, scientific research. People worried about their IP gets stolen, and then you can actually trace the entire consumption of your document. So other ones is like efficiency for financial transaction, any type of bond transaction to have that marriage and the issue really fast. And the blockchain has this the self-governance nature, and it can make things much faster. So you will really remove the middleman administrative layer and making things happen much faster. So I think those are a few important ones. But another thing, actually, Shaotizen has been also innovating and focusing on over the last few years is to metamorphosize a document, and through the journey from a normal document to a smart document, then to make the document actually monetizable and eventually become a digital asset. So that's another aspect, probably not really, a lot of people have thought about, but we actually created this innovation cycle and established our vision called Document of Things 3 years ago. And it's really to take the document to an entire new level. And with the same document, you can actually transform itself and evolve into eventually a digital asset. So that actually gives you a lot of power. Any people own the documents now can treat these documents as commodities. So one day there could be a tangible value attached to that. And then through our technology innovation, we can actually make that happen to any organizations, any business, and any individuals.
So it sounds really interesting to me that, in this industry, in the content management, records management industry, we've often thought of records management, content management, digital asset management. You can kind of go down through all the 3-letter acronyms as separate disciplines. And it sounds like what you're talking about is blockchain being a bridge that maybe replaces or replaces all of those in some ways, if you think about it creatively. Do I have it on the right track?
If you think creatively, yes. And blockchain is just an enabler. To me, any technology is enabler. And really the innovation has to come from the application layer and how we create business solutions to solve real problems. So otherwise, doesn't matter what technology you use, if you don't really see things in that way, you still won't be able to create something like this. So I think what actually Shaotizen has done is really to address real issues for the market and simplify so many things. And exactly what you said, from record keeping, paperwork, content management, document management, to digital asset management. Now you have hundreds fragmented software out there, maybe thousands or even 10,000s. And all of these actually all interconnected. So what we have done is just bring everything into one platform called DocuWalk with very easy user interface. And you pretty much cover all those areas and just in one digital home. So it's secure, it's efficient, and easy to use. And now you can reduce so much cost, but not just cost, it's digital waste. So it's so much paperwork, so much duplication, it's all digital waste. That was one of the reasons why I created such a heavy load on the digital universe. So I think what we actually try to see is try to address the root cause instead of just the band-aid approach. So we want to address to really reduce the digital waste into minimum. So everyone has a single source of truth, and you hold that as a tokenized document. And then from there, you pretty much don't need to worry about duplicate your PDF or using other methods. You just invite people into your token, into your own home, which is a document. And then, you kind of simplified a lot of things. And the big data approach, all this can be made redundant.
Rich, the collaboration aspect of this is fascinating to me because, I think a lot of people think of blockchain as as just a security, kind of archival based sort of business case. But what Chao is talking about, and maybe you could just expand on this a bit, is that it's not really just that. You're talking about the entire process that surrounds the document. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think you do. And again, we're trying to find certain applications, verticals that can lend themselves to the need to be able to put, for example, government documents online that people in the outside want to access. The government wants to give the public access to these records, but they're just afraid to get hacked. I was just on a webinar before with another software company, and they're doing, it's all having everything online with all the data to permitting and things like that. The next step is to put these documents on blockchain, and that's what we're trying to do here. And I've always been someone who's not been a visionary. I've always been in the moment doing the technology. But when I came across Shelter, Zoom, and Chao and Alan, really hit it off well, because I just believe in what we're accomplishing here. We're just trying to, again, not create one application for one small market, but trying to look at one large vertical and a number of verticals. And Chao can expand on that too, on some of the things they're doing. It's amazing.
So I've got this book called Immigrant Secrets that I sell on Amazon. Could I tokenize that at some point and get rid of the middleman?
You can tokenize that for sure. And then from once it's tokenized, then you can start tracking, port the document and make it much more intelligent. And so that's one of the core innovation we do. We call document token. So in a way, it's a document NFT, and but it's unique and belong to you only. Any people you want to grant access to, and you are the one in control. So no one else can see your document, not even us.
So does all this pose any challenges on the receiving end of the document? In other words, so you take a Vatican manuscript, you scan it, you secure it with blockchain, and if I'm going to consume that document at some point, is there anything that I have to do on my end?
No, it's just the same way, and it's just like a normal application. But the only difference is Vatican will know you have access to this, and they can give you download rights or share rights, different type of permission, and then every step you do, they know. So basically, especially for people who hold very precious content or the IP, and they don't want people to misuse them or copy all over the place. So that it really gives the author or the creator the control over their asset. So it's a protection. Yeah, but we have.
It makes me think a little bit of the Gartners of the world. When they send out their reports, there's all these kind of like clunky sort of PDF controls on it right now, to try to control their intellectual property. And it sounds like the future is to do something more fundamental with blockchain relative to securing that content that somebody wants to monetize.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely possible. And I think Vatican is a really good use case to show the world this actually we are heading a new way of how to manage your content online. So many publishers, municipalities all can join, using similar solutions, and I think to protect their digital document asset.
So you're doing something pretty innovative here. Was there any change management challenges associated either in your company, Rich, or at the Vatican? Was there anybody that reacted like, huh? Like, what are you guys doing?
No, actually, when we were at the Vatican, all the professors and research people who were in the Vatican working were amazed, and they were so thankful that we are digitizing these important books, because presently, before COVID, they had about 500 people flying in from all over the world to study this collection of 400 books that we scanned. And their goal is now to have people around the world who can't fly in, who can't take time out of their schedule, can't afford it, to be able to remotely log in, view this collection of books, study this history. And if you read the article of the New York Times, it's unbelievable. It's a history of the Jesuits' studies, their travels around the world over the last 1,000 years, and they write about what was happening in those different parts of the world, like Iraq, Syria, Ethiopia, where presently those countries have changed dramatically. And this is the history of those countries, the writings. It's not just religious writings. It's what happened in the 12th or 15th century in Iraq, which is, I've been told, was the Paris of that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so amazing. It was just an amazing story.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the New York Times article again. I'll post it in a link in the chat for everybody to take a look at it. It's really something. When you think about coverage in the New York Times on New Year's Day, not a typical document management story you see in the New York Times on New Year's Day. So kudos to both of you, because it's a really interesting use case, I think, that people can learn an awful lot from if they really dive into it. So let me ask you about, Rich, that I was associated with AIM for a long time. I continue to be associated with the broad community of people that do records and governance and, all that kind of stuff. How do you think the skill set of people in this space need to change moving forward to basically future enable their careers?
That's an interesting question. I think the clients are going to be asking about this in the future, and companies like ShelterZoom can certainly give the guidance with what they're creating today. It's ever evolving, and Chao has a lot of patents out there. For example, ShelterZoom on different technologies they're trying to tie together. It's not happening overnight, but getting a client like the Vatican, I mean, unbelievable. Gives us a lot of brand awareness and technology awareness, I think. And I think that it's just going to evolve, and people have to be aware of it. I have a lot of people contacting me asking, how can we be part of this? And it's an evolution. It's not happening today, this moment. Everything's not perfect. But what Chao and her team are doing, developing this technology every day, is going to help us get there.
So, Chao, tell me, before I ask you my final, I usually call this my country western song question, but before I get to that last question, maybe give people an idea. The part that I've found interesting talking to you are you have a very process-centric view of these technologies. In other words, lots of times people talk about blockchain and it's pure technology, but not the context in which blockchain is used. And maybe talk about some of those security and collaboration intensive kinds of processes where you see a real role for blockchain.
Yeah, so we actually started as a prop tech company because we saw this kind of requirements in real estate, especially in online property purchasing. So back in 2017, we came up with this solution, which is really facilitating people's online property purchase. So we just put a button on every listing called Offer Now. So when a buyer sees the property or the buyer agent sees the property, they can initiate a smart contract immediately on the website. So that it actually provides a lot of privacy and security required for the online transaction. Then plus the collaboration, because real estate transaction usually quite complex. You have buyer, agent, seller, listing agent, multi-party involved in collaboration. So we just thought blockchain was a perfect fit for that. So imagine this is almost 4 years ago, and we were too far ahead of the curve. I think people love the concept. And so we had to downplay the fact that we use blockchain because people just don't understand.
Yeah.
But what they love about is the button, so easy for people to transact. And all what we've been telling them is secure. Your private information is not going to go anywhere. So that gives them the assurance they can do that. But over the years, I think the awareness of blockchain, the benefits, in the technology itself, not cryptocurrency, because we're not a cryptocurrency company. So it's more the technology company. So that gives us more and more, confidence developing the technology based on blockchain, but still solving real problems. So still business process driven, still business solution driven, but we can now tell people behind the scenes is Tesla, which is blockchain. So that's probably one of the good use cases. And medical records, financial transactions, there are many other use cases now happening more and more so, for the blockchain community and then for companies like us.
It's interesting. Made me chuckle a little bit. I remember 10, 12 years ago, I had a conversation with somebody about an extremely successful SharePoint implementation.
Yeah.
And I asked them, what's this, what's the secret? How are you so successful? And the person told me, said, we didn't use the word SharePoint anywhere when we talked about what this was. We talked about the business process that someone was engaged in, and put the technology underneath the covers. And so I think you're smart in terms of thinking about this from a process enablement perspective, because just the term blockchain is a little daunting to people at times. It's they kind of want to do it, but they're a little scared of it too.
Yeah, even now, because cryptocurrency, the impact on the people's understanding of blockchain. And it's always a little bit challenging, but I think the mainstream awareness has just matured so much.
Okay, last question. Go. I'm sorry, Rich.
And I think also, our goal is to solve business problems around handling documents and protecting those documents. That's really what I do every day. We're a scanning company, but we're always trying to automate and help, in a lot of cases, governments, how they automate their handling their documents. That's the key. And blockchain is the buzzword, but it's really solving a business problem.
Yeah, and also in the second half of the year, so kind of Q3, all these manuscripts Richard's team scanned will be made available on the online marketplace. So which is the marketplace provided by Shelterton's technology. And imagine this actually will be made globally. So everyone, from every corner can access. And if you don't have any control, any awareness how people consume those precious manuscripts, and it will cause big chaos. So I want to say this project is really going to take Vatican to the next level, and they will allow everyone to access those documents and really share the knowledge and let everyone enjoy the human history and the religion, language, etc. But yet they still feel safe, protecting their ownership.
All right, last question, and maybe we'll go Chao first, and then Rich is, and as I said, it's my country western question, which is that you've been on a really interesting journey. What do you know now that you wish you knew then when you started this initiative? Chao, why don't you go first?
This is a really interesting question. Probably the thing came to my mind immediately was 6 years ago when Alan and I started this journey. We didn't know there are terms out there, for example, Web 3.0. And then we started looking at the landscape, how we can solve major issues from all these unstructured way of creating internet and www, all those lack of integration, interconnectivity, intelligence. So we came up with this idea. And at the time, we just called, we're going to replace www. And then we called this, 2 years later, we named that document of things. And what happened was recently the term metaverse came up.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what we actually wanted to do 6 years ago. And we already had all the blueprint, what components we're going to do. And we all consolidated them into document of things. So if we didn't know there was a term there, we probably wouldn't have named anything else. We just go along with those terminology. But we're really proud. Now we own the trademark for document of things, contract of things. Also hopefully we'll get a document token, contract token granted very soon. So yeah, it's really interesting how everyone perceives the things and name them, and at the end of the day, they probably mean the same thing.
So, Rich, you get the last word. What do you know now that you wish you knew then?
It still is an interesting question. I mean, I know one thing that I'm glad I ran into Chao and Alan and connected with them, because they're the visionaries. Again, I'm trying to bring verticals and applications and ideas that we can create around. But we all have our place, and that's about it, really.
Well, thank you guys very much for your time. It's a true oxymoron journey that you all are on. Taking some rather strange bedfellows and combining them all together into something that I think is very, very ingenious and revelatory in terms of kind of the future of where documents are going. So,
thank you so
much.
Thank
you all very much for the time. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, John.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you so much. Yeah, bye-bye.
Great.
Bye.
Take care.